So if you are at the point right now where nothing is working, you've tried everything, it just seems like a constant uphill battle. You are so sick and tired of spending money, resources, time, effort, energy on your business, and it's just not working. You're seeing people on social media doing successful things and finding the happiness and the joy that perhaps you wanted, which is the reason why you started the business in the first place. Or maybe you're the other side of the coin. Maybe it's too busy. You have too many sales. It's taking you away from family, from life, and you just feel like giving up. You're questioning yourself every single week, wondering, why on earth am I still doing this? Why am I trying so hard? At what point do I say enough is enough? At what point do I say it's time to give up? So if any of that sounds like you, then you need to listen or watch, depending on where you're consuming this episode, because I'm basically going to be taking you through my 4R framework. So before you give up, before you chuck in the towel and say, I'm out, I'm going to peace out from this business, I'm not doing it anymore. At first, before you give up, you must first try. Before you give up, you must first try. Now, this was, I don't know if it's a quote or just something that has always been written at the bottom of the KPI spreadsheet that we put all of our numbers in every single Monday. And the reason it's always been there is because it's a nice little way to remind myself that if I'm ever thinking about giving up, it's probably because I haven't tried the right things at the right time. Now, I know that might pee a lot of you guys off, especially if you're like, oh, really frustrated. You're probably screaming at me right now thinking, Steph, like, I've tried everything. How dare you say I haven't tried all these different things? And why would I have not have tried first? Why would I be sat here now if I haven't tried? And I've honestly been in your shoes before. I have felt that. But when I've actually sat down and gone, but have I actually tried to assess things the way they are right now? Have I just thrown spaghetti at the wall and expected it to stick? I actually saw this reel the other day, and basically it was a guy who dropped a whole big tub. You know, like those big tubs that you use to store things in your attic. He had a tub full of pink ping pong balls down these concrete steps. And at the bottom of these concrete steps, there was a glass. And I want you just to imagine that, okay? Concrete steps, a big tub full of ping pong balls, and a glass at the bottom. Now, what I see a lot of people do when they're at that point that they are giving up is that they're pouring the first tub down these steps and expecting all of the balls to get into the glass. Okay, then that's not working. Then they're doing a bigger tub of balls, throwing that down the stairs and expecting more ping pong balls to land in the glass. Then they're doing 4 or 5 tubs all at the same time, throwing them down the stairs. And again, what do they expect? They expect the ping pong balls to get in the glass. And I really want you guys to imagine that right now, because that is what you are doing if you are just spending endless amounts of time, endless amounts of energy, endless amounts of money, endless amounts of everything. You're pouring your whole self into your business and it is just not working. Now, that might be you, or maybe you're the kind of person that shows up once a month, pours a little mug of ping pong balls down the step and still expecting it to get in that glass. It doesn't matter which side you're on. Okay, you might be feeling like just giving up, but you have to imagine that, because it's merely impossible to expect, if you're throwing everything at it, everything down those concrete steps, it's impossible for you to expect one of those ping pong balls to end up in the glass. Okay, and that is what I see a lot of handmade business owners do. Okay, and instead, consider this quote, and it's actually by Martin Luther King Jr. And it says, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And it's really a quote that I love, because it just reminds us that just because your competitor is running doesn't mean you have to right now as well. Just because someone you know is walking doesn't mean you have to do that either. And it's a really good quote to just kind of remember that not to compare yourself to what other people are doing. So if you've listened to that and you're still like, I don't know, Steph, I just need something. I need something for me to get my teeth into, for me to actually see if this business is worth it, if I can turn it around, and if I'm ever going to get to where I need to go. And I've got just the thing for you. So it's the 4 R's, okay? The first R is resilience, and we're going to be going over each of these. The second R is reflection. The third R is reframe. And the last and fourth R is rest. Okay, so let's go over each of these R's. Now, if you haven't already, I urge you to go and get a notepad, paper, pen, remarkable tablet, iPad, whatever you use to take notes, or a good old-fashioned pen and paper, God forbid, and go and grab some notes, because each of these 4 R's is going to only work for you if you're writing it down and actually implementing it. I do not want people who are just going to listen and do nothing. Or they're going to listen, think, yeah, I'm going to go back to that episode later and take some notes, and then never do. Okay, because I have some news for you. And the harsh truth is that if you're thinking about giving up, first you must try. And I really want you to try through doing these 4 R's in this episode with me right now. So the first R is resilience. Okay, now resilience is really, the way I take it to mean, is an almost similar concept to when you first pick up a guitar, okay? And you hold it and you're plucking the strings. And the first 3 or 4 times you do it, your fingers are going to hurt so badly. You're going to have, sores and blisters and lots of different areas of your hand, because your hand is not used to doing the movements. It's not used to holding the strings. It's not used to plucking. It's not used to doing any of those things. By the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time, you are going to have calluses. You're going to have hardened skin on your fingers because your body has gotten used to it. It's healed over, but it's healed over with a little bit more strength. By the 20th time, 30th time, 40th time, it's not even going to bother you, because you have these fingers that have grown and gotten used to plucking the strings, holding the instrument itself, and so on. Now, that's how I like to think of resilience. But the actual definition of it is the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties. Another word could be toughness, or the ability of a substance or an object to spring back into shape. And a word that they've used here is elasticity. So we have words such as toughness, elasticity, flexibility, pliability, suppleness, plasticity, elasticity, or springiness. Okay. So resilient can often seem like you are expected to tough it out, and in spite of how you feel, in spite of everything you're going through, you need to just tough it out. And that's not really how I see it at all. I like to almost see resilience as being a tree in the wind. And I want you to bear with me right now. Being a tree in the wind, right? If there's too much wind, just too much, there's a hurricane, there's a tornado, the tree is just going to blow down. It's going to uproot itself. It's going to blow down. It's just not going to work. However, a tree is designed to be very flexible, very bendy. Okay, that's why wood is a fantastic material to use to build stuff. So what will happen is that its branches will bend, the tree will bend, the tree will kind of move with the wind, because if it doesn't, if it's brittle, it'll break, because the wind is not going to stop. Your problems are not going to stop. The difficulties are not going to stop, because life is uncertain. Business is uncertain. It's almost like a living, breathing being. It will have its up days, it will have its down days, but you have to be bendy and flexible and pliable enough to let it do what it's going to do, to let the wind pass over you, but to spring back when it stops. Okay. And that is what resilience really is to me. Now, how do you actually build this? How is this actually a thing that you build? Now, the 4 R's in and of itself is going to kind of help you to do this, but I just want to go over some big building blocks that have helped me to kind of become resilient to things. Now, the first one is that you have to know that any issues that you have in terms of business, let's say it's people not reading descriptions, or people asking for refunds, or a friend copying your business, or a competitor copying a product from you. Doesn't matter what it is that you have to know it's nothing personal. This is something that I struggled with a lot way back when I first started, was that my business was my identity. And whenever it was attacked, it felt like I was being attacked and my character was being attacked and who I was as a person was being attacked. Okay. So please, that's the first thing that I need everyone listening right now to understand, is that I know it sounds cliche, but business is business. Okay. And no, you don't have to be cutthroat. No, you don't have to be the Wolf of Wall Street. No, you don't have to do any of these things. Like, they are movies, they are stories, they are just a whole nother level. Okay. However, what you do need to understand is that it means nothing personal about you. That's the first thing. The second thing is you need to be able to learn to accept and adapt to change. And building resiliency is like a muscle. So the more you do this, the more you will build that muscle. You have to understand that change is a constant in business and in life. Like, nothing ever really stays the same. And that is a good thing, because if everything stayed the same, like if you are rooted to the spot and it's a good spot, you know, you're feeling like you're in a good place with your business, but you're stagnant, you're stuck to it. You're going to stagnate. You're not going to move anywhere or change and grow. And eventually someone might just come and run you straight over because you are stuck where you are now. Okay. So change is a really good thing. Now, I know that a lot of people, for example, when AI came in, everyone was throwing their arms up in the air and saying, oh, I don't know what to do. It's AI. But a year later, has it actually changed the way that you live your life and you do your business? Well, maybe it has. Maybe you've heard of different things. Maybe competitors have used it to create counter products. Maybe it has directly affected you. But when that change has happened, you've had to move and dodge and be bendy and flexible like a tree, right? So instead of fearing change and fearing algorithms doing updates and lots of different things that, you know, we have to come across as handmade business owners, instead embrace it and say, well, you know what, if these platforms didn't change, they'd no longer be working half as well for me. And I think just learning to expect change and be pliable towards it is just a really good muscle to start to build up. The third kind of point here is that when you have a problem, and this is something that I've started to practice, especially so in the last couple of years, is to never think there is one solution, because there are always two or more solutions to a problem. Okay. So let's say, for example, your problem right now is I am not making sales, and the only solution you're thinking of right now is to either shut up shop or to decrease your prices to try and encourage more sales. Those are, in your head right now, the only two solutions to the problem that you can see. Okay. But have you tried zooming out a little bit? Because I can tell you, you know, for absolute fact, that is not the only two ways that you can solve that problem. There are 100 ways to solve that problem. Have you considered doing a marketing audit to see which marketing channels are being effective for you? Are you even marketing yourself? Have you done any more target audience research just to make sure you've got those products right? Are your product pictures presenting it in the right way? Are you selling on the correct platform, whether that be your own website, a marketplace such as Etsy? You know, there are so many different ways to solve a problem. And starting to kind of look for creative ways to solve a problem is honestly a really fantastic thing to do, because this does build your resiliency muscle in such a way that the very next time you have a problem, you're not going to be like, oh my God, what am I going to do? There are so many different things I have to think about. And now this, how am I going to solve this? No, instead, you're going to be looking for a creative way to solve this problem. So that is another thing. And the third thing that you need to do is to always, always, always assume that there are 2 or more ways to solve every single problem you're going to come across in your handmade business. Now let's move on to the second R, and this is reflection. So this is broken down really into 2 parts, and this is your growth mindset, which is what you need really to do anything hard in life, and small steps. I'm going to kind of like break this second R, which is reflection, into growth mindset and the small steps that you need to do. So a growth mindset is something that I see so many people gloss over, because they think, mindset's just, it's woo, it's stuff that people don't need. It doesn't make any difference. Where's the strategy? What do I actually need to do? And they'll almost like push and 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 push, desperately trying to break through that glass ceiling. When, as a coach, in actuality, all I'm seeing is the glass ceiling is themselves, and the glass ceiling is their mindset, the beliefs and the fears and the issues that they have coming up for them each and every day. Okay. So if you're feeling like you just can't seem to break into this income bracket, or you just can't seem to get above an order a month or an order a week or whatever, and you're trying and trying and trying, have you considered that it's because you do not have a growth mindset? Now, here is what a growth mindset is. Okay. A growth mindset is a business owner saying, I've not got any sales in 6 months. I feel like I'm trying everything, but I've not tried everything yet. I've not hit on the right thing yet. I'm going to try something else. I'm going to learn from my mistakes. I'm going to try something else. When someone is not in a growth mindset, that will be a post in the group such as, guys, I feel like throwing in the towel. Etsy has changed this thing again, and I've had someone requesting a refund. I don't know what to do anymore. Oh my God, like I've put everything into this business. Nothing seems to be working. Sad face, crying face, crying face. What do I do? Right? Can you see the differences between those 2 posts, or those 2, it doesn't even have to be posts. It could be emails. It can be talking to someone, whatever. I have experienced both in droves. And let me tell you that I can immediately see, as a coach, I can immediately see those who are currently in a growth mindset and who are going to break through the problems and the barriers and the glass ceilings that are in their way versus the people that are not. Okay. Now, with a growth mindset, there is something, and it's kind of like leads me on to my point number 1 here, is the power of yet. Okay. Now, this is the easiest way to begin to start to curate a growth mindset, because a growth mindset is looking at ways where they might be using all or nothing language, such as, I've tried everything. Well, have you honestly actually tried everything? Have you tried every craft fair? Have you tried every wholesale opportunity? Have you tried every marketplace, every marketing, place, platform, whatever? It's really looking at your all or nothing language and kind of poking holes in it and saying, okay, I'm feeling frustrated, therefore I'm using language such as always, every time, everything. You know what I mean? And instead inserting the word yet. And instead of saying, I have tried everything to get my handmade business to make sales and it's just nothing is working, to nothing has worked yet. And it's a very small, subtle change, but honestly, it is so important to just begin to kind of poke holes in your all or nothing thinking. And instead, introduce a possibility that perhaps you haven't tried everything. Perhaps there's still opportunities for you out there. Perhaps that there's just something that you haven't come across yet. Now, the next thing with a growth mindset is you have to get curious about your setbacks. Now, this is really, really hard, considering that sometimes we have the tendency to beat ourselves up a lot over what we've done wrong, what we're doing wrong, what we're going to get wrong. And you can see how this kind of like spirals downwards, right? You end up saying, I'm this, I'm that, I'm never going to, I will always be. And again, it's that all or nothing thinking. And what I seem to see a lot of the time is where people are not looking at their mistakes as stepping stones to get to where they want to get to. And I know it's cliche, and you've probably heard this a gazillion times before in a lots of different ways. And you're probably like, yeah, but mistakes suck. Mistakes make me feel like I'm crap. Mistakes make me feel like I'm never going to get there. Mistakes are rubbish. Businesses do not make mistakes. And that's probably what you're thinking right now. Every single one of those statements is wrong. Absolutely wrong. Let me tell you why. We are not brought up. We aren't born innately knowing how to make money. We aren't born even knowing what money is. When we're 2 years old, we have no idea of the concept of money and how to make it and the opportunities that are going to be presented to us. We have no idea. Okay, so imagine yourself at 2, 3, 4 years old and turning around to that person and saying, you're going to make all these mistakes, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. It just wouldn't work, would it? You don't turn around to someone who is a toddler and saying, why can't you speak fluent French yet? You know what I mean? It doesn't work like that. It's encouragement, support, and understanding that if the toddler is trying to walk and he or she keeps falling down, you aren't going to say, well, you better stay down, love, because you ain't going to succeed in this. You just wouldn't do that. So why are you doing it to yourself? Why every time you list something new and it's not getting the sales that you want it to have, it's not getting the views you want it to have, why are you tearing yourself down? Instead, why aren't you looking at that mistake and saying, okay, something went wrong, but there's something to learn here? Because there is a hidden lesson in every single setback, in every single mistake, in every single failure that you have and that you have had and that you will have. So I urge you to, even if you're not someone who's going to like journal this out and write it down, although that is what I suggest you do, I urge you to instead find 3 things that you've learned in every single mistake, failure, or setback that you have ever had in your business and in your life. Even if the mistake, the failure seemed like a massive, massive, massive deal. And the third thing with the growth mindset is you have to focus on the journey. Okay. You have to understand that when I said before that failures and setbacks are stepping stones to get to where you need to go, you have to understand that the stepping stones is the journey. You aren't pid-padding along the stepping stones to get to an end bank and then sit there and plonk yourself down and camp out for the rest of your life. No, that's not what we want. The whole idea of building a legacy business, which is what I specialize in helping people to grow, is that the stepping stones then become a little bit bigger and a bit easier for you to find, a bit easier for you to step on. You never stop moving. The stepping stones just get easier to find. And that in and of itself is, I'm doing air quotes here, is the end journey. So rather than focus on the end results and what you should be at right now, focus on the journey instead. Now, the fourth thing, which is a very, very small thing, is please stop comparing yourself to others, because what you end up doing is you end up looking at what other people are doing and thinking, well, maybe I should be doing this. Maybe I should be doing that. And you end up taking bits of their journey, stealing them for yourself and plonking them in your own journey, and wonder why you get to the end of a year, 2 years, 6 months, whatever. You're looking at your business and thinking, this doesn't feel right. I'm not enjoying this. Why? It's because you've taken bits of other people's businesses and whatever else, plugged it in your own, and it's unrecognizable to you anymore because you've not built it for you. You've built it from the tail end of someone else's journey. Okay. So you just stop comparing yourself. Block accounts. I do. Mute accounts. I do. Unfollow people that might even be friends. I do. And I promise you, it's not because I'm a malicious, nasty person. It's because I know that if I wake up at 3 a.m. to go for a pee, and I'm naughty and I do sometimes look at social media before I get back into bed, and if I see something that makes me feel bad, I'm not going to be able to sleep, or I'm going to wake up the next morning in a right grump. It's not because I'm a nasty person. It's because I have respect for my mindset and my journey, and I gatekeep my mindset into oblivion, and you should too. Now, the second part of the second R, which is reflection, is small steps. It's a very, very, very simple one. But here's what I want you to do. If you're listening to this now, you're like midway through the second R and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to give this another go. You need to do two things. Number one, I need you to curate a list of 3 to 5 habits that you are going to do every single day to grow your business. Okay, 3 to 5 habits. And I want you to make 2 different lists. One is for high energy days and one is for low energy or sick days. Okay. And I want you to curate those 3 to 5 habits that are going to grow your business every single day without fail. All right. Now that can be as small as listen to 10 minutes of one of Steph's podcast episodes while I'm making the kids' lunches every single morning. It can be create one new product idea to add to my list every single day. It can be to post 3 stories every single day. It doesn't matter what it is, but I want you to look at what's been working for you thus far and create 3 to 5 things that you do every single day without fail. And what this does is that it means that every single day you are growing your business, whether you're actively working on it or not. It's the small steps that are clumped together over time that make the big difference, rather than massive amounts of effort and energy for a week, followed by nothing for 6 months. Now, the third R is reframe. And again, this is split into 2 parts. So this is failures are opportunities. I know that obviously we talked about that before, but I want to go into it in a lot more detail. And the second part is doing a SWOT analysis on your business. All right. So juicy things. So looking at failures as opportunities. All right. So this is where I want you to note down any of the big business failures, mistakes that you've had in the past. I want you to look at what went wrong without blame, without blaming yourself, without blaming others. Just analyze what went wrong as if you were in a court of law, just kind of telling people and the jury what happened. Okay. Now, the second thing is to write down what lessons you learned from that mistake, from that setback, from that failure. Okay. And the third thing is to brainstorm how you can apply those lessons in your business today. Not enough of us are doing that right now. So many of us are kind of thinking, yeah, well, I did this thing wrong and this happened and that felt bad and I have this feeling carrying around with me and maybe I'll try it again and maybe I'll wait. Like, we are not actively saying this is what happened. These are the lessons that I've learned. This is how I'm going to take that issue with those lessons and apply it today. Okay. And that is what all of the greats do. That is what all of the big business gurus, we hear about Mark Cuban, we hear about Richard Branson, and this is what these guys are doing. So the other thing as well here is that I really want you guys to research 3 companies, can be any 3 that you know about. And I want you to do the same analysis on their business. So for example, Slack. Now, if you've heard of Slack, it's a communication channel for teams. It's a bit like Asana, right? Well, Slack actually started out as a failed game and that didn't go to plan. So therefore they did a major pivot into a communication platform. Netflix went from DVD rentals, and I'm actually that old where I remember Netflix, and I ordered from Netflix, being a at-home DVD rental. It came through the post, and when you were done, you posted it on back. Now that kind of did okay, but nowhere near the giant that it is today, which is a streaming giant, right? So I want you to actively look and research other times when companies have done things wrong and they've learned from it. So the second part of Reframe is to do a SWOT analysis on your business. Now, SWOT is simply strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it's basically creating a grid or a list or however you want to do it. It doesn't really matter. And creating the heading strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which spell out SWOT. and looking at each of them and actually creating a bird's eye view of your business as it stands right now, and all of the areas that is good and all of the areas that tis bad, right? So, for example, strengths. You need to have a look at the attributes and the resources that give your business an advantage, okay? And it could include things like good branding, a really, really lovely product, a unique USP, right? Weaknesses are things that might hinder your performance, right? So it could be things like maybe you need to trademark your name. Maybe your branding isn't very strong. Maybe your target audience is a little bit weak. Opportunities. These are looking at external factors that you could leverage for the best chance of growth. Okay, so it could be like market trends, tech advancements, changes in buying behavior, all those kinds of things. And the last point is threats. So this is again looking at external factors to look at what challenges your business could face, or areas where you think that could really, really, really be a threat, or areas that could impact your growth in a bad, negative way. And the great thing about this is that it enables you to see where you can preemptively strike things like weaknesses and threats. Okay, so that's a really, really good thing to do. It's kind of like it satisfies that data strategic part of our brain that's probably going through these 4 R's and thinking, yes, but what do I actually need to do right now, Steph? The last R is rest. Now, this is split into 2 parts, which is self-care and stress management. So self-care, guys, you cannot expect your body and your brain to operate in the best possible way if you are not nourishing it with everything it needs. Trust me, I'm sat here right now with an empty caramel wafer packet and a mug of Pepsi Max. Like, I am the worst person. I am not the picture of health at all. But even I know that if I do certain things, I'm going to end up not feeling great. And it's not going to reflect very well in my creative brain and my work. Okay. So this is why I always aim to get at least 8 hours of sleep. And I aim for 9, quite honestly. This is why I will make sure that I am hydrated when I'm working. This is why I will have a proper lunch where I sit down without my phone, without any distractions, and I will enjoy my food. This is why I pre-plan and pre-make all of my meals so that I know I have a healthy, nourishing meal coming up. This is why I work with experts that can help me to optimize myself, my life, so that I am coming at you being my best. Because if I was to record this episode today, right now, with 7 hours sleep or 6 hours sleep, caffeinated up to my eyeballs, and I've only eaten, I don't know, a dairy milk chocolate bar the whole day, this whole episode would be very, very different. It would be over in about 17 minutes and there would be no use in it at all. And I'm going to be honest, you know, you might have listened back to some of my previous episodes, probably YouTube videos at this point, or some of my previous lives. And you can probably tell when I'm not feeling my best and I show up and I'm lethargic and I'm not feeling great. So why on earth are you aware of different things that affect you differently? That can be sleep, that can be food, that can be exercise, whatever. And why are you still doing these things? If you are trying to grow your business, if you're trying to grow your life into something that you've always wanted, you're trying to step into a better version of yourself and of your life, why are we still doing these things? So this is where I'm going to throw all of the self-care stuff out the window, because I know that you know it. I know that everybody knows they have to have, you know, relax and watch a movie. These are things that are all great. But instead, I want you to make a list right now of 5 things that make you feel crappy and 5 things that make you feel great every single day. 5 things that make you feel crappy, 5 things that make you feel great. Make a list of those two things and make sure to just always, wherever you can, be in the latter. Do the 5 things that make you feel great every single day. And that is my spiel on self-care, because I know you know that you need to make sure that you're cutting down on sugar and on this, on that. But again, I am not an expert at health at all, but I just try to keep things really, really simple. And sometimes I treat myself. Sometimes I go overboard. Sometimes I'm doing things that I know I'm going to regret. But hey, we're all human. We learn from our mistakes. And if that is one thing that we've learned from this entire episode, that is it. And the last part of the 4th R, which is rest, and this is stress management. Now, I have done a lot of research into stress and our nervous system and anxiety, because I've been affected by all of these things, okay, extensively so. And I've done a lot of reading research into stress. And honestly, stress is one of the biggest killers. It honestly is. It's not only something that might end your life shorter than ideally you would want it to. Now, again, I'm not a medical expert by any means, but this is just research and things that I have seen that has alarmed me, that's made me go, oh my God, stress is not okay. It's not a badge of honor to wear. It is something we should actively avoid wherever we can. Now, obviously, there's good stress, there's bad stress. Now, bad stress is constant level of your body being in fight or flight mode. Okay, and you probably feel the difference of that versus good stress, which is exerting a little bit of pressure when you have a deadline, and then that stress goes away after you've done. You know what I mean? They're very, very different. And I'm talking more about bad stress. Okay, so again, I want you to write a list of 5 things that are bugging you right now. Just bugging you, just little niggly things that are bugging you. It can be the toilet seat that doesn't quite close right. It can be the stain on your favorite jammies. 5 things that are just annoying you a little bit. And then 5 major things that are really getting to you. Now, this can be things such as your job doesn't pay you enough. It can be something like your car is so old and you really think you need a new one. It can be something like you need to change up your routine to make you feel better. So again, 5 little tiny things that are just bugging you, and 5 big issues. Now, today, I want you to make a plan to tackle 1 off of the first list and 1 off of the second. Okay, because as long as we are making some kind of steps towards negating that stress further down the line, then that's big thumbs up from me. Okay, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. So that is the 4 R's: resilience, reflection, reframe, and rest. And I would love to hear from you guys via DM. If you loved this episode, please do let me know. And I'd love to hear from you as well. If you were definitely going to quit before and now maybe not so much, I would love to hear what this episode has done for you, because honestly, I've put a lot of research and a lot of effort into creating this, and I would love to hear from you. But for now, my loves, I shall catch you all in the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to How to Be a Handmade Boss. And if you're eager to boost your Etsy sales within just 7 days, then be sure to join my most popular free training at handmadebosses.com/conversion. You can also find the link in the show notes as well. Keep an eye out for our next episode, where we'll be continuing our journey towards handmade business success together. And until then, keep crafting and stay inspired, because the world really does need those special creations that only you can make.